Okay, so good evening. This is the Steve Mazzacane podcast. Glad you could join us today. Before we begin, because I forget this every single time that I do these podcasts, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like it. I have somebody I'm working with on like promoting podcasts, and they keep yelling at me for not saying this. So like, share, comment, all that stuff if you can. It'll help us get the word out and get this. As people watch this and subscribe to us, we have once a week an hour-long podcast comes out. And with newsmakers, politicians, stories, people fighting for legislation. We've had obviously a couple that you can see now. And then also we'll have coming up a lot more shorter ones that'll be on Instagram, TikTok, what have you, that are 3 to 5 minutes long on issues, national stuff, state issues as well. So subscribe if you can, promote us if you can. We appreciate that. So today we have Denise Paley is our guest today. Denise, thank you for coming in.
Sure. My pleasure.
Appreciate it. You have been advocating over the last, I'd say, couple years for mental health issues and support and finances for mental health support in prisons.
Yes.
And that came about because of an incident in early 2020 where your son, Ellis, I'm going to let you describe it a little more than I can, but I guess some sort of psychotic episode.
Yes,
He left your home,
that's right.
drove to Westport. Was it Westport?
Yes, so not exactly.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
I'll tell you.
You tell me.
Okay, so in January of 2020, Ellis, our son, it was a Sunday, and he left our home. He went supposedly to the library to work on a project for school. So they were coming back from break.
In Guilford.
In Guilford.
Okay.
So he's in high school. He's a senior in high school at the time.
Okay.
And he was in the International Baccalaureate program.
Okay.
So they had a project to do over the break, and he was to meet up with classmates at the library.
Okay.
That was our understanding. So Ellis is a very conscientious child at the time, and he didn't come home for dinner. So I know for a lot of people, a senior in high school not coming home for dinner
Seems common.
without calling is not such a big deal.
Okay.
If it was my other son, would not be such a big deal. But Ellis was just the type of kid who would always call and let you know where he's going to be, when he's going to be there. So he didn't come home for dinner. His dad and I started to worry. We started calling around to see. Oh, we went to the library. The library was closed. We started calling around. We went to, by some places where we thought he might possibly be.
So he wasn't answering phone calls?
He's not answering the phone.
Okay.
I have the boys on Life 360 so I can track them. His car had not moved since the afternoon.
But you knew where it was?
Well, I could see where it was.
Okay.
He had turned it off. So it wasn't where...
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
that.
excuse me.
I don't
didn't
have that
explain
program.
that
Okay,
correctly.
go ahead.
Yes.
All right, so he turned
You have
this off.
children? One day you will.
I don't. So, okay, so it shows you where it last was, and that's what...
Yes,
Okay.
where he had turned it off.
Okay.
So he had turned it off, apparently, shortly after he'd left our home. His brother, at the time, Snapchat was very popular. I don't know if it still is, but his brother is on Snapchat trying to find his location. No one can find him. So we went to the police to report him missing. And we were kind of met with a lot of resistance from our local police department. They basically, now I have all the audio tapes from all of our interactions. So essentially they were just saying that we were overreacting if we thought there was something wrong.
Well, it's not a missing person until, what, is it 48 hours?
That's not a thing.
It's not a thing?
That's not
Okay.
really a thing.
Okay.
So he could have been a missing person if they'd taken us seriously, but they did not. And, I do a lot of mental health advocacy work now. Prior to that, and I still do a lot of crisis intervention, team training, advocacy. I worked hard to get that law in place, which went into place in 2023 to make it a requirement for police officers, because at the time there weren't any police officers in Guilford who had crisis intervention team training to recognize that perhaps there was a crisis going on. And, quite honestly, we did not think that was the issue either. I thought if my son was missing, he was carjacked. I mean, that's really what I thought happened to him. Like, that's
Okay.
where my mind went immediately. I wasn't thinking his mental health was at risk until I saw that he had used my credit card around 10 p.m. in Darien, Connecticut.
Did he have any connection to Fairfield County? Was there a reason for him to be there?
He has no connection to Fairfield County, and he would never drive to Darien, Connecticut. He would barely drive to New Haven. He doesn't. He didn't like to drive that far. His friends often drove when he went out. The fact that he was in Darien, Connecticut, made me certain he was carjacked. Okay. I mean, that's where my head went originally. So we called the police and said his credit card was used at a gas station in Darien. Can you please check it out? They told us to call the state troopers in Darien. So we did. And we just said, can you please just, we're on our way. Yeah. We're on our way there. Can you take a look? And so he swiped my card around 10 p.m. and this is after midnight. Now this is a Sunday night. Okay. This is a studious kid who is not allowed out on a Sunday night, who is still not home, and nobody has heard from him since the morning. And it's after midnight, and so his dad and I at this point are just very
crazy, beside yourself.
Yeah, we're beside ourselves. I mean, it's hard to explain viscerally what happens to you when you're going through something like this, when your child's missing, because you can't imagine that's how you would respond until your body just sort of takes over. So state troopers do go to the rest stop. 2.5 hours later, they find him sleeping in his car in the rest stop. They call the Guilford Police Department. And we can go into the whole story. There's a back and forth exchange. I'm begging the Guilford Police Department to hold him. I mean, I literally say, if he is in a rest stop in Darien, Connecticut, an hour away,
something's wrong.
Yeah, there's something wrong with him.
Okay.
There is no way, I say verbatim, there is no way my son is lucid or can possibly be in any condition to drive.
To this point, have there ever been mental health issues?
He had a diagnosis of obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay.
And ADD, but they call it ADHD now. Yeah. So he didn't have the hyperactivity, but the inattentiveness. So he had that diagnosis since middle school. Okay. And we had explained that to the police officers as well, because they said he doesn't have a mental health diagnosis. I said he does. He has obsessive compulsive disorder, is classified as a mental health disorder.
They were looking for like schizophrenia at the time, I'm guessing, as opposed to OCD. Okay.
I don't know what they were looking for.
Yep.
So we tried to report the car stolen. They wouldn't allow us to report the car stolen. They told us we gave him permission to drive it, even though it was our car and our name. They told the state troopers to let him go.
The police here?
Yes.
Told state troopers?
Yes. They told me he is not having a psychotic break that they could determine. And they let him go. They told me that he said he was out partying with friends. Now, I have watched the state trooper video since. He never said that. So they said he is out with friends. He's fine. And I said, none of his friends know where he is. There's no way. And since I have all the recordings now, I know that his best friends were calling the police department overnight, looking for, just seeing if there was any word, upset. So they said to let him go.
And this is what, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning now?
This is shortly after midnight.
Okay.
So this whole thing happens in real time. The state troopers find him. They call Guilford. Guilford calls us. They tell us that they're going to let him go. And I said, he's a kid. Just tell him your parents said you can't move.
Yeah.
His father was already on his way. I said, just hold him get him a cup of coffee, do something with him, 20 minutes. He'll be there. He's on his way. So, and they refused. All night long, I'm calling. He's still not home yet. And the background with the police department was, the officer I speak with, he calls his supervisor. The mother is acting up again. She's you know how to get rid of her. Like, this is the background. They were sure nothing was wrong. You know what to say. Get rid of her. Like, they told me this is not a police issue. This is a family issue. So they refused to help. He never came home. He never showed up for school the next day. We were back at the police department the next day begging them for help. And they listened to us. So the police officer we saw in the morning, the woman that we spoke with, she listened to us so poorly that we gave her our number, because the people had turned over, and we'd given her our contact information. Again, please call us if you hear anything. And when Ellis was ultimately arrested, she didn't have our phone number to give to the Westport Police Department that had called her.
She didn't even take it.
She never even took it down. Yeah, that's how dismissed we were as a family. So Ellis, at around 1:30 in the afternoon, he was in a parking lot close to where, in Westport, and he was sleeping. I don't know if he was sleeping, but he was in this parking lot seemingly for a while, and there was a woman sitting in her car for a while waiting to go into an appointment. I guess she was checking text messages or doing whatever she was doing, and he opened up her car door, and she kicked him, and he stabbed her in the leg multiple times.
Okay. How is she, by the way?
Physically,
Yeah.
she's perfectly fine.
Okay.
She was released from the hospital.
I mean, obviously
shortly after.
traumatic and a tough situation for her.
It's
but
very
she's
traumatic.
Okay.
It's very traumatic.
Yeah.
I've been in that situation where somebody has accidentally opened up my car door, and that fear. But thankfully, physically, it wasn't terrible injury.
I just want to respect the victim we want to talk about what's happening with your son, but certainly there was somebody else here too. So that happens. Obviously, the police are there. He's arrested.
Yes.
From that point on is where you're a mom, but there's an advocacy that's about to happen afterwards based on the help that your son gets. Is there a diagnosis ever given to your son?
Yes.
What is that?
Schizophrenia. First episode, schizophrenia.
So that means...
It means that was his very first... It was an acute onset of schizophrenia.
Okay.
That was his very first psychotic break. He was in a state of psychosis when... Now, we didn't know this at the time. He didn't get the diagnosis for years.
Okay.
So, because now he's in the prison system.
Yep.
So we just knew he wasn't him. We didn't know. I remember going to visit him right after it happened and thinking, like, we had 18 years. He's
That wasn't your son. That
yeah.
wasn't what you were
Yes.
used to.
Just, and he was, why he was, what you asked about earlier, why he was deemed incompetent to stand trial multiple times. He was not himself. And he was brought to Manson Youth Institution because of his age.
Okay.
So, and he was, he was young, and he looked really young. He didn't shave yet. He was, very thin, small in stature. He was a little kid. So he was in Garner when we first saw him. Garner is the prison in Connecticut that is deemed most appropriate for people with mental health disorders. And they sent him to Manson.
Okay, so just so we can get a walk through the process, he has no diagnosis when this first happens.
Right.
They send him to the hospital that's actually good for those with mental health issues. What's the name? Ganson?
No, Garner.
Garner?
I think they just kind of,
That's where they sent him.
they just sort of looked at him and just thought something's not right.
Oh, okay. So it was that obvious.
Yes. So
Did he have recollection of this incident? Did he?
he does remember it, but it's not, I don't think he remembers it the way it actually happened.
Okay.
So he has some recollection. He was, so as we know now, it happened. Schizophrenia is it's a disorder where you have hallucinations and delusions. So hallucinations being not everybody has hallucinations with schizophrenia, but many people do. So where you see things that aren't there.
Okay.
And you have beliefs that aren't real. And as much as I see you in front of me, and I know, Steve, you and I are speaking with each other, he was seeing what was a metaphysical being by the name of Jackson that had a name since about August before this incident, but we didn't know. So now I can go
interesting.
back and look
Okay.
at the timeline and see going
So
through.
for about 4 or 5 months before this happened,
He started saying this
Jackson character.
Jackson, who became an ever greater presence in his life over the course of months. So Jackson started off being kind of ambiguous, someone that he saw that he was afraid of. He first saw Jackson at the library, and then Jackson became more commanding. So,
Okay.
and that's what led to him doing what he did.
And the reason I ask isn't, one, ignorance, because I don't know schizophrenia all that well, but it's also how obvious was it to other people, even without a diagnosis, that there was something not right here? And you're saying it was incredibly obvious.
Once it happened, once the incident happened.
Yeah, so the police officers responded, knew something's not right here.
Yeah, he was rambling. This is when he's in a break.
All right.
Prior to that, I mean, I've spoken with his teachers had no idea. His friends had no idea. His parents had no idea.
Okay.
As far as I knew, he kissed me goodbye to go to the library, and I was going to see him a few hours later. There was nothing out of the ordinary. In hindsight, there were a couple little things with him going on. Again, he's a senior in high school. Yep. There's a lot going on. So there nothing that would have...
Nothing abnormal.
No real flag for me to say, I wonder...
Okay. So, and I think that's important to know that, so this happens, it's pretty clear to police officers, to people in prison, to people who are on the scene, and soon afterwards that something's not right here.
Yes.
This is not somebody in their right mind. Okay. So your advocacy over the last few years has been police training and also funding in mental health in prisons.
Not funding. I've been advocating. No,
Go ahead.
the funding is because in the budget. Oh, yes, funding. Okay, yes.
Well, you don't have much without funding. I mean, you're not going to get very far. Okay.
Yeah, so the most recent piece of legislation that I was working on was just put into the budget implementer.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, there's a lot of things that pass, but if it doesn't pass with money at some point,
yes,
you're not going to get very far. So
there's a lot of money in the prison system.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. So your son gets there. There's something wrong, clearly. What is the mental health process he goes through once he enters the prison system?
It's inadequate.
Okay, so what is the process that he went through?
He was put into a mental health unit.
Yeah.
He saw a mental health counselor once a week, at least. It took 3.5 years to get him on a medication that could possibly treat his illness. And once he was on that medication, he became completely toxic. He was given poor doses of what he was on. But that's
okay.
At least he got medication, and he did have some.
Why did it take
some clarity.
3.5 years?
That's the problem. So, in our prison system, and I'm not blaming the mental health providers because thank goodness
sure
there are people
too.
who choose to do it. I've spoken with some mental health providers who work in the Department of Corrections, and they describe their work as every time they get an inch forward with somebody they're trying to help, then the system the culture of the DOC pushes them back a mile, and that's what they deal with. So the issue is that there aren't enough people with the right kind of training to support somebody who has a mental illness as serious as schizophrenia, or somebody who is at risk of dying by suicide, which is a also a very big problem in our Department of Corrections.
And we have to imagine that the vast majority of people that are in the system, especially at a young age, have something along those lines.
Yeah, so if you look at, I mean, across the country, you're 10 times more likely to wind up in a prison than you are in a hospital if you have a serious mental illness. So
10 times?
10 times. Yes.
And that's even with a prior diagnosis?
That I can't tell you.
Okay.
That statistic I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense that if you have something that's not diagnosed as serious as schizophrenia, it may come out in a fairly violent way, right? So that might be the first time you hear about it, but that's 10 times is still a crazy
I wouldn't
number.
say because of violence. Let's say you're in a hospital and let's say you go to an emergency room and you spit at the provider in the emergency room. That can land you in prison.
I see.
You're waiting in an emergency room and they won't see you quickly enough and you're in crisis and you pull the fire alarm. That lands you in prison.
Interesting. Okay.
So there are a lot of different ways that you wind up. I mean, these are real cases I know of that I'm referencing here in Connecticut.
So what should have happened with your son?
What should have?
Yeah. Because I want to be able to compare what did happen
Yes.
and what's ideal.
What could have been better?
Yeah.
So there are many places. I'm not. I don't want to sound like I'm casting blame.
No.
Because I think people do the best that they can do.
The
with
only way to
resources
get
they
better
have.
is to look at ways to get better. So
Yes.
we're not saying the therapists aren't doing their job. We realize that there's funding issues all over the place. But we would like to look at what are the things that would have made this experience significantly better overall.
Okay. So I mean, I think I've communicated that in the first place, the police should have just
Okay.
brought our son home to us, let us report the car stolen, and that would have been that.
Was there a reason, like a legal reason they didn't do that? Or you feel
And
like
one
they just
officer
didn't
said
want
to us he'd have a record. Like, we don't care. Even then, we're like, so what? Our son is missing. Report the car stolen.
Has anyone ever said to you since then that they should have done something differently?
Yes.
They have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, credit for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the police aspect is the first thing.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So in our prison system, I mean, I wrote it,
Go
I
ahead.
made the note of it. So if you have an active mental health disorder, you're more likely to be unsentenced in our prison population. So just getting through sitting in pretrial detention is much longer. It's 40% versus 26% likelihood of being unsentenced if you don't have a mental illness, an active mental illness. So if you're not level 3 or higher.
Unsentenced means what?
So unsentenced is when you sit in pretrial detention, which is a big issue in our state. So it's when if you can't afford your bond.
Yep.
In Connecticut, you stay they put you in prison, and while you wait for your case to be adjudicated, you are removed from society. You're removed from your family. It's very disrupting. Nothing healing is going on, and you haven't been tried or you haven't pled yet. It's just there's no technically we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. It's not really how it works, and I think it's about 25% of people in Connecticut today are sitting unsentenced. At Garner, in the mental health prison, it's almost 50% of the people there are unsentenced.
Is that because the judge rules them not capable of?
Well, yes, that could be part of it, but think about why that might happen. So let's use Ellis as an example.
Okay, please.
So it took 3.5 years to get Ellis medicated. So to get him medication that would get him ready to go to trial. And, is that the fault of his illness or is that the fault of our system? Because Ellis had a condition called anosognosia, which affects about 50% of people with any kind of psychosis. So whether it's from schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, people have delusional disorders. I mean, there are a whole host of things, diagnoses that were
Okay.
commonly be unfamiliar with that are impacted by anosognosia, which is a biological condition where you just believe that you are not ill. And you hear these stories. There's a case recently with a man, his last name is Jones, that there's an effort to get the video of his, what has been deemed a murder at Garner, made more public. He was unwilling to go to, I think they were trying to get him to go to medical. He was refusing to take his medication. You know, people aren't going to take medication if they don't believe that they're sick.
Okay.
So you have to have, there is treatment for anosognosia. You have to have staff that's able to treat it so that you can get people to be more compliant with their medication. Anyway, in order to go to medical when you're in prison, you have to be strip searched first. So imagine being in a state of psychosis, and now you have to submit to a strip search, and you're already not thinking clearly, and you have like 10 officers in a room with you trying to force you to be take your clothes off.
Okay.
So that escalated. Anyway, within 30 minutes, this gentleman was dead. All because he wouldn't take his pants off. I mean, just people like, there's no reason for it. So my hope with this bill and what I had submitted to Christine Cohen and, asking her to propose this segment to begin with is not just timely mental health treatment, but not just timely mental health treatment, but by a comprehensive interdisciplinary group of providers that can recognize anosognosia, that can treat it, because there'll be a lot more compliance. Ellis today knows that he is sick. He knows, and it was really once he went to Garner. So once he went to Garner, he basically collapsed when he walked in the door, and they brought him to a medical unit, and that provider was amazing with him, and she completely revamped all of his medications. She took off what was making him toxic, and changed everything around. And within probably 10 days, he was in complete remission of his schizophrenia. He has not had one hallucination or one episode of delusional thinking since he's been put on the right medication. So for 3.5 years, he was basically left spiraling. I mean, he at one point, he thought he was shrinking. He would call me every day in despair, thinking he was going to disappear, like this could be the last time. He thought the walls were bleeding at one point. He would sit in these concocted positions. He was like on the top bunk, distorted for, almost 24 hours, thinking if he moved, it would mean world destruction. And nobody did a thing about it. They just left him like that. Like nobody, they just leave these kids. It's all children there. They just leave them suffering, locked in their own heads. And that doesn't have to be. So what do I think should have been different? That should have never happened. That's abuse. I mean, that's why, the U.S. Department of Justice sent a letter to the governor in 2021 because they're abusing kids, because because of children's mental illness, they're causing them unnecessary harm and putting them at risk of further harm. And my son got arrested in 2020, and this investigation took place, I think, in 2018, 2019, and still not a damn thing had been done about it. And my son was left spiraling. I mean, I was telling him, trace your hand, honey, so that tomorrow when you look at your hand, you'll see that it still fits the same size, because he was convinced he was going to disappear. So what's the delay? Whose fault is it that these sentences are so delayed? It's our legal system's fault. There's no reason to leave somebody like that. Anosognosia is a completely treatable condition.
Was he not diagnosed with that early on?
Nobody knew what it was. So I had suggested to his mental health counselor, because as soon as I realized that, he was hallucinating and having delusions, which granted, it took me a long time to figure it out. It takes the average psychiatrist about 9 months to diagnose schizophrenia.
So is the argument, that the people that are handling mental health in these prisons not trained enough?
Either there are not enough people
Okay, so staffing is first.
with the right training.
Qualified staff.
Yes, because he has had some excellent providers that know all about it, and he has had some that. So with his mental health counselor, who's very well-meaning, and I am grateful for him every day, he took a very genuine interest in my child and wanted to help him. Was not equipped to do so. And when I had suggested to him that Ellis had anosognosia, he had never heard of it. And I don't know very many mental health providers who do not know of it. I mean, it's kind of basic. He should have known. I actually sent him a book about anosognosia, the book that I use and that Ellis's father used to help him work through it through our 15-minute phone calls and our, intermittent visits that we were finally able to get, after COVID and when they're not in lockdown, that we did with him to convince him to agree to take medication. They could be doing this for everybody. It's
much sooner.
Much sooner. It's not extremely complicated therapy. It's just the way you speak with somebody, and it's the way you position your relationship to get them to see maybe something's not right. And we did it with Ellis, and he responded to it. And now that he's on medication, he's completely aware that he has an illness. He knows he has schizophrenia. He would never miss a dose. Every once in a while, somebody might forget a dose. He will call me immediately. My meds still aren't here, and I'll call. I'll send an email, and they'll take care of it right away.
So the first aspect is not enough qualified personnel who understand the full spectrum that they should understand,
or personnel that has the time. So Ellis is generally a pretty mild-mannered kid.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in his cell. He's not fighting. He's not disruptive. He's just kind of minding his own business. He's not getting the attention that he needs. So he is thinking that the walls are on fire, and he's terrified and in complete distress, but nobody is paying attention to him because they've got fires to put out all over the place. And, a mental health provider might have to see 40 people on their list to see in a day. How are you going to give quality care to 40 people? It's impossible.
So what does this...
He's in Garner. I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
So he's in Garner.
Yeah.
And it is the mental health facility in our state. So if you have a serious mental illness, that's where you go. And most of his mental health visits are, the standard questions, do you feel homicidal or suicidal? No? Okay, that's it. 5 minutes. That's it. That's his therapy.
So talk to me about the law that you proposed.
Well, what is written into the implementer is timely mental health treatment. So people coming into the system have to be seen within 48 hours.
Okay.
Which I think will be tremendously helpful. I think that I don't know what it's going to exactly look like, and I think if it leaves out being seen by an interdisciplinary team that has the skill set to really make an assessment and a diagnosis and to chart properly, it's going to be for nothing.
You're not going to be able to...
If you were to pull how many people have died in the Department of Corrections, and I don't have this, but I've seen other figures over the years, just how many people have died in the Department of Corrections in the last 12 months, I would bet you 70% would be death by suicide.
Of those who died.
Yeah.
Now, in your estimation, now I know Christine Cohen's going to bat for you, but on the list of priorities for our legislature, where is mental health in our prisons?
I think our prisons are unpopular, period. And I think that's a miss. Prisons are very expensive. It costs about $670 million a year to run the Department of Corrections. It is supposed to be a source of rehabilitation and, I guess, for people with mental illness recovery to reenter society in a productive way. And so going back to Ellis, 5 years, not a class, no, very little physical movement. In prison, they are fed a diet that is less than $5 a day. Food is filled with fillers, preservatives. I mean, he is, I don't even know how much he weighs. He is unrecognizable.
So he's gained weight in prison?
He's gained at least 100 pounds in prison.
In 5 years?
Yeah. By eating shit food. I'm sorry, I don't know if I
You're
can
fine.
say.
Go ahead.
And he's sedentary. There's no, they have very little access to fresh air. They have very little access to movement. I mean, it is.
Are they more controlled than the general population?
No, I think that's how it is
That's
everywhere.
everywhere.
I mean, there's a hunger strike going on at Cheshire Correctional right now for the same reasons. Except they're complaining about rats in the kitchen, which is not an issue at Garner, thank goodness.
And so that's the question is, putting more money into prisons is never going to be something that you're going to get a ton of support for.
I just think prisons have to be revamped to be constructive. They are extremely punitive. I mean, I don't know where the money goes. So I think a lot of this money, I don't know what it goes to.
I mean,
corrections officers are paid very poorly. They're always short-staffed. There's very little programming.
Do we have any idea what the recidivism rate is for those in what place is this? Garner?
At Garner, I don't know, but I think in the Department of Corrections, it's about 50% within 3 years of being released from prison.
So within 3 years of being released from one sentence, 50% end up back in jail.
Ends up back in prison. Yes. And I have heard numbers as high as 79% overall within 5 years.
Do we know if it's higher with those with mental illness?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't say. I can say that people with mental illness serve longer sentences than people without. That I know for sure.
Why is that?
I think that there's a lot of stigma around mental illness, and if you're not getting adequate treatment, you get in prison. You get, like, if you can't regulate your behavior, you get tickets.
Okay.
In prison. So, that impacts your stay or your chances for getting parole.
So those with mental health issues are going to get more of those.
They could. They could. I think people with mental health, they're also more vulnerable too. On the flip side of that, there's a lot. I can't. I don't know that the rate of recidivism is higher for people with mental illness. I can't say. I think that. I can tell you, for example, like, I know already one of the terms of Ellis's parole when he does get released is that he has to be employed, or he will have to go back to prison. I am trying to get him a college education right now. He already has he had enough credit to graduate from high school.
Okay.
He already took the SATs. I'm just trying to get him some college courses while he's there. I received a laundry list of things, criteria that he has to meet. One of them being he has to have a mental health level of 3 to be eligible for college courses. Now, he has schizophrenia. So generally when you're in prison, if you have schizophrenia or any type of psychosis, you're automatically a 4.
So he would not be eligible to take any sort of classes because of that.
I mean, this is what I'm facing just like over the last few days. So in theory, no. So now is the message you're not bright enough to, I don't know what the message is. Like, Ellis is a bright person. He happens to have mental illness. He did very well on the SATs. I don't know why he's not having a chance. I don't really get it, but he would have to have a mental health level of 3 or less to be eligible for college courses. And then if he is leveled down to a 3, there's a very strong likelihood that they'll move him out of Garner. So he'll go someplace else, which is sort of like, I mean, it's a chance that he would have to take and hope that he doesn't require serious mental health services again, that he stays in remission, which, the odds technically are in his favor. You have a 26% chance of of being cured from your schizophrenia within the first 3 years. So maybe he's one of those like complete responders. He could be. He hasn't had any symptoms since. But what if he's not? And then he's in a facility that has worse mental health services than Garner.
So what I'm hearing is we had somebody who clearly had a mental health issue, have an incident. There's a victim. We get that. And usually when that happens, the sympathy is kind of gone for the perpetrator at that point. But he goes to a mental health facility. He does not get sentenced. He cannot stand anything or get a sentence for at least, 3.5, 4 years? Or he just was sentenced
5 years.
5 years before he's sentenced.
5 years.
Part of that is because for 3.5 years, he was not getting the mental health help that he needed.
Right.
Like there was somebody trying, but he wasn't trained enough, in your opinion, to know the right things to get him where he had to go.
Well, it wasn't just him. I mean, it's
Other people.
There are other people who saw him too.
He finally goes to another hospital where apparently
It's not a hospital, it's a prison.
another prison is more qualified.
They
figures
treated
it
him
out.
immediately.
So he
Yes.
gets in, he gets treatment, they figure
sorry,
out
these
his
are falling
meds.
off.
It's okay. It's all right. They figure out his meds, and that's after 3.5 years.
Yes. So
Once that
3.5
starts happening-
years, and then in about 10 days, he's completely fine mentally.
So had he started off that way, he would have been through his judicial process much faster, gotten his sentence much faster.
I believe so.
Okay.
I can never say for certain, but I believe so.
And so the argument that I think you're making that I would 100% agree with is if our job is to rehabilitate, we're not doing that.
Right.
How does this bill help that happen? Give me some details in the bill that you're pushing, or the implementer you're pushing.
So the way it is right now, so you have two avenues to go if you have a mental illness
Okay.
in our system. So you go to prison, and you don't really get very good treatment, mental health
It's a
treatment.
standard, regular, okay.
And then you come out, and that's when your treatment begins. So in the meantime,
Oh, wait. So people go to jail, have something diagnosed, but don't get treatment until they come out?
a lot of people, I mean, the most meaningful mental health treatment they get is for them to get when they get out of prison, because it doesn't happen in prison.
That's interesting.
So you kind of pick your poison. So you pick, do I want to go this route and potentially come out still sick? Plus, as I'm seeing, a lot of people come out of prison with diabetes and heart disease and cancer because it's prison. The food, the air quality, and all of that. So do you come out that way? Or do you go the not guilty by reason of insanity route, where you go through DEMIS and you go, but then that will most definitely mean a much, much longer sentence than you would receive if you went through our judicial system. I mean, I always thought if you went to prison, there were a lot of circumstances before somebody made a decision to send you to prison that there were like very clear lines of the law being broken. So I didn't realize it was as gray as it is. And then I thought that prisons were designed to help people. You hear these stories about people getting education in prison or these reentry programs to give people like a leg up so that when they come out, whatever their environment was before that led them to, or trauma before that led them to being incarcerated to begin with, is sort of mediated to an extent where you can have a meaningful life when you get out. That is not the case. People come out of prison, They have no credit. They're in debt. They're sick. They have no social support anymore. They've lost contact with all of their friends, maybe their family. I mean, you can't get a bank account. You can't get employed. Like, our system is not designed for anything constructive at all. So hence the very high recidivism rate. You're 10 times more likely to be homeless if you've previously been incarcerated. I mean, it is a lot of money that taxpayers spend, and they spend twice as much on people who have
mental health issues.
I can't remember if this statistic is, it's either twice as much as on people with mental illness or twice as much as if they just went to a hospital, if they were kept in a mental health facility, and then it's 3 times as much for people with mental illness, or that number's reverse. But it's a lot more. It's a lot of money that could be saved if people were treated right away. So by implementing this bill and getting adequate treatment up front, it will save the state a lot of money. It will save taxpayers a lot of money, and it will mean it will help people get through the system and back it to their lives more quickly, and hopefully reduce a lot of trauma, in-prison trauma. It'll make it easier for the corrections officers. I mean, from their vantage point, I imagine it's very stressful to try and work with somebody who is not in their right state of mind.
Course, yeah.
You're trained to like be very directive with somebody who is incapable of receiving or responding to directions, and all you're doing is continually using more and more force, to get somebody to do something that they can't possibly do.
So you have worked with in past to get things passed with the police, and then more trained. Talk
Yes.
about that. How you feel like that's a positive? I mean, we have now. I know in Brantford, there's social workers basically on staff now. There's a lot more training. Do you feel like you've had an impact in a positive way there?
I do, yes. So that is also part of the law. So if you're going through police training, you have to crisis intervention team training will be part of your training. Every police department has to collaborate with the social worker. I will say Brantford was good before. If I knew then what I know now, I would have just called Brantford and begged them for help, because I think someone would have showed up.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they already had crisis intervention
Yep.
team training there. And additionally, co-president of NAMI for the Shoreline, and our affiliate will offset the cost for any police officer who has grandfathered out of crisis intervention team training, who wants to do it through CABLE, the Connecticut Alliance to Benefit Law Enforcement.
Okay.
That training is mostly funded by DEMIS. So DEMIS pays for most of it, and then there's a small stipend that police officers have to pay. I think we contribute around $125 per person.
Okay.
And our affiliate will pay it for any officer within our affiliate. Even without, I mean, we've even paid for people outside of our affiliate if they
Your
ask.
affiliate is what towns?
We go from East Haven to Old Lyme. That's along
The
the shoreline.
response from officers has been what?
It's been pretty good. I mean, some towns are better than others.
Okay.
Some towns are all in. They want their dispatchers trained, which I think is very smart. They want, fire department trained, also smart. Anyone who might be a responder
First
to
responder
get
on
the
a
training.
scene sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes, or who's taking the phone call.
Yeah.
So some towns are better. Some towns are great. Some towns are reluctant, but we've paid for a lot of training.
Good.
So I'm
All right, so
I'm
your
pleased
work
about that.
You're seeing
Yes.
the payoff to your work.
Yes.
All right. So let me ask you the most important question. How's your son doing?
He's a remarkable kid. I hugged him for the first time in 5 years on Saturday. So
Why, for the first time in 5 years, they just wouldn't let you?
they held him non-contact this entire time. And
And what changed?
he's sentenced now.
Oh.
So through all of this, I have talked to him through a piece of glass on a phone as he's gone through all of this. And he's probably stronger than most of us. And he's not bitter. He's just, he's so at peace with his situation. He just wants an education. That's all he asked for. He's like, I just want to go to school. I want to, he reads a lot. I send him a lot of books.
Okay.
But he wants to be able to use his brain and prepare for reentry and be productive. It will help him feel like he has some sense of purpose.
If education doesn't happen through the prison system, can he do a mail thing? Is that possible? An online course? Does he have access to that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, you don't have access online when you're in prison.
Okay.
There's no internet.
So this idea of getting them prepared for the real world when they leave doesn't seem to be something that they're focused on at all.
You should probably be able to use the internet if you're going to be prepared for the real world.
And there's a million guards you can put on the internet about what you have access to. So but if you wanted to go to the University of Phoenix or whatever it is to do an online school, he could not do that.
No.
Now that's a bill that would make sense.
There are a lot of things that would make sense. So one of the things my attorney said to me, I may be upset that I say this out loud, but he said you cannot think rationally. Like you stop making rational arguments. It is not a system that is rational.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you got to hug him.
Thank you.
I'm glad he's doing well.
He is.
And hopefully we can get him a little more education and get him ready for the world when he comes back. Now, is the 5 years that he's been in there so far, does that count towards his sentence?
It does.
So he has 5 more
except
years.
for they're not counting. Most of it does.
Okay, so he's out in 5.5 years.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
he has to serve 85%.
Okay, so maybe a little bit less.
So it could be a little bit less. Yes.
And he has a family to come home to,
He
and a
does.
mother that cares about him to come home to. Unfortunately, there's many who don't.
Yes. Well, that's why when I saw the list of what
Yeah.
it will take for him to, every time I learn something, then I want to do another bill. So I mean, the police system is something on my list, which is ridiculous. That's a whole nother podcast. But when I saw the list for what is required for education, I'm thinking, like, I can pull up his SATs. I can get his high school transcript. Who's going to do that for people? Who's going to fill in an application? So,
Well, especially things like that don't seem to be, to me anyway, something that's all that costly. Like, I understand legislators.
the
as soon
state
as you
doesn't
say,
pay for it. Actually, it goes through. It's a Pell Grant. It goes through. It's a federal grant. So there's actually no cost
Like,
to the
I
state.
understand if you said I want 1,000 more therapists, the state's going to say that's not going to happen, right? So that's kind of you can fight for that forever, but it has to pass and also get funding, and that might, whatever. But these simple fixes that really don't cost any money, what is making it so hard for those things to happen?
I couldn't say.
I mean, if the state was able to say that 20, 30% of the people who went into jail came out with an associate's degree, that's a pretty good thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You would
rehabilitating people.
I agree.
All right. Well, maybe there's a new law we have to start working on. All right. Denise, I appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing your story. I'm glad your son is
pleasure.
doing better.
Thank you.
I want to stay up on where these laws are going and if they get funded and that sort of thing. And I'll certainly talk. I'm sure at some point Christine will be in that seat and we'll get an update from her as well. But I appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank
Something
you.
else you want to share?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, go ahead. I know you're having dinner with your other son tonight,
I
so I'll
am.
let you
Yes.
go.
Oh,
I
yeah. He's
appreciate
probably
that.
waiting for me now.
And I appreciate you coming on.
All right. My pleasure. Thanks,
Okay.
Steve.
To the rest of us, again, I have to say this again because I keep forgetting to say this. If you please follow us, subscribe to the page, like it, comment. If there's a question for Denise, please put that in the comments below. We'll make sure we get that to her and get an answer back to you. And if you have any more questions, we can certainly put you in contact with her on that. Till next time, have a good night. Denise, thanks again, and we'll see you soon. That was good. Yeah, I think, part of the problem we're always going to have is